Hello there, this is Sky News at 9. You're watching the press preview, a first look at what's on the newspaper front pages as they arrive. In the next half hour, we'll be seeing what is making tomorrow's headlines with Professor Robert Winston from Imperial College London and the businessman well known to TV audiences, no doubt, James Caan. Welcome to both of you. Greetings, indeed. And the other story they've picked up on as well, Cable attacks Cameron on immigration. Which of those stories would you like to start off on?
I think the Cable story is quite interesting because this is now the second time we're seeing a bit of a split within the government. We had the healthcare, and now we're looking at this immigration issue. But I think, you know, the immigration, I do understand the point that David Cameron's making. You know, we don't really want mass immigration, but we do, as an economy, need selective immigration because, you know, attracting the right people into this country does fuel the economy. And if you look at the health service, I mean, if we didn't attract as many doctors as we need, you know, whenever you go to any hospital, you do see a lot of foreign doctors. So there are areas that I think as a country we need to attract talent.
Well, Professor Winston, doctors, nurses, support staff, the hospitals are full of
absolutely. There's another issue too, Anna. You know, one of the issues which I think we're worried about as scientists is the fact that it's very difficult to get science students and postgraduate students into this country who really contribute in a major way to our economy. First of all, they bring in massive fees from parts of the world that are able to supply them.
But if you look at some of these universities, a lot of these universities are funded specifically through foreign students. If you cut back on some of these foreign students, it will have a devastating effect on how universities get their funding.
That Cameron immigration story is dominating. What is your cultural heritage, if I can put it, if that is politely enough for you? From Pakistan. So is this an issue that is close to your heart? Do you watch it closely because of that, or...?
Not really. I mean, I suppose I'm really more interested from it from an economic or a business perspective.
Right.
Because I do think strongly that, I mean, I agree that it should be controlled, and I agree that we should have legislation in place that when people are allowed in for a specific reason, they're giving a time period. But I think government needs to strengthen its controls over making sure that they go back. So I think one of the problems is the sheer leakage in bureaucracy, where we're letting enough people in, we don't then control it, and then it's a burden on the economy, on the health service, etc. So I think from an economic perspective, you know, you should attract the talent. So it's a bit like a company. Every now and then, economies go in a particular direction. So if right now we're seeing that the economy is very strong from a technology perspective, then we should be attracting the best brains. And if you look at America as an economy today, the biggest economy in the world, it's got such diversity in terms of cultures and people because it does attract the best. So I think Britain shouldn't give up that competitive edge where it needs to encourage. But I think mass immigration, which is then becomes a burden to the state, burden on some of the services we provide because people arrive in and then they don't go back, that's the bit I think government needs to focus on.
So it's a balance, really, isn't it, for you?
Controlled.
Pensions collapse will hit millions. The paper saying the pensions crisis deepened as figures showed record numbers of final salary schemes are being closed. 1 in 5 plans shut to both new and existing members last year, the National Association of Pension Funds revealed. That must come as no surprise to you in the business world, that final salary pension schemes are closing down.
I mean, this has been looming for ages, and I think today this is just crystallises what's happened. I think the entire kind of whole pension deficit from an economy perspective, you know, has been a time bomb for quite some time. And I think the whole issue of the ageing population, this will become as a massive concern to, I think, millions of people in this country. And I think the problem you've then got is you've got, you know, so much of pensions is dependent on the stock market. And because of the whole performance of the global financial crisis has kind of impacted it even worse. So I think right now, I think for people at that kind of pensionable age, this is really a big issue. And I think it's one of the reasons why the government are trying to extend that age, you know, to avoid having to pay it out as quickly as they have to. So, you know, this is quite an alarming story.
Quite a striking headline, this, Save Our Cyclists. Each year, thousands are seriously injured and dozens killed, many needlessly. Why do we tolerate it? Basically calling for greater safety for cyclists on our roads.
And in Central London, we've got 10,000 extra cycles now because of the Mayor's introduction, you know, to the Central London scheme.
Boris Bikes.
Boris Bikes. I mean, and I must admit, you see them everywhere. I mean, I live in Central London, I work in there. I mean, they are all over the place, and this will get worse, I'm sure.
The Metropolitan Police kettling of G20 protesters, which has been ruled unlawful. The Met has said that it will appeal. Clearly, in this phase of protest that we've seen, be it student or a trade union, what the police do with demonstrators is a matter of concern for them.
But you must understand that the police in that situation, they're there to control a crowd. It's a very difficult situation. You've got people hurtling bottles at them, throwing rubbish at them, and I think if the police can't be able to do their job, I think, sometimes we're more supportive, against people who are creating violence than we should be supporting the people that are protecting, our belongings and people at large. So, I think it's quite an unnecessary attack at the police, I think. Well,
at the last violent incident we saw, the retailers were furious that their property had not been protected.
Absolutely, and understandable.
Okay. The other story they've got is uproar after pub ejects couple. This is a gay couple who were seen kissing by the pub landlady.
James and I were talking about this before, and we both felt that we still live in a somewhat homophobic society. And
we just don't see it. I think we're not used to seeing it publicly, and I think we all accept it, we all understand it. But I think if you go into a pub and there were two men kissing, I just think it's still a little bit, oh my God.
Well, the paper says, at what point does public intimacy tip over from a touching display of innocent romance into offensive vulgarity? And that is the start of it.
The beautiful thing, Anna, it was their first date. Which
Their top story, though interesting, Eurozone faces fresh crisis amid fears that Greece cannot repay their debt. I mean, this is massive concern then for Europe and the Eurozone, James.
And I think, in fact, the Portugal was actually due to pay its debt today, actually. I think there was over 5 billion due in today. So I think the whole of that kind of geographical region financially right now, is very, very volatile. And I think the fear is, how much will it spill over? Because it just seems to, it's like a domino. It was Ireland, then it was Greece, then it was Portugal, then there's concerns about, Spain or Italy. This is a big issue, really, and I think, Britain's right in the middle of it. And, when you look at that, you think, thank God we didn't join the euro.
Yes. Gentlemen, fascinating to have you here. Thank you very much indeed, Professor Robert Winston, Lord Winston, and James Caan. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.